Let me show you how to make this gorgeous trinket tray in 5 super simple steps. Incorrectly prepping the mix to pour into the mold can ruin this simple project. Because I'm using a casting powder that requires precise measurements, I used a digital scale to prep the mix. Even though it's a very beginner friendly medium, you can't just mess around with the water ratio. You have to pay attention to the scale. If it's too fluid, it will take ages to set, or worse, never really cure properly. I have two separate batches here. Since real seashells aren't perfectly monochrome, I introduced a small quantity of pigment into one batch to cut the stark white of the eco resin mix. Step 2. Don't pour the mix into the mold at one go. Just pour it in layers, tapping gently as you go to release the trapped air. But don't wait too long between layers though, or the mix will start to set and misbehave. I have learned that layering these two tones won't create a sharp contrast. With eco resin, vertical layers tend to settle and blend, creating a softer, foggier transition, unlike the texture we get in horizontal pours like trays. The final difference here is very subtle, almost invisible, but the tiny bit of blending is exactly what cuts through the stark whiteness to give this piece a natural, realistic shell-like coloring. It has only been 30 minutes and it's already time to demold. This is the beauty of working with eco resin. But don't be fooled by the quick turnaround time. While a eco resin project can be ready to touch in an hour, finishing it can actually take longer than traditional resin depending on what you want to do with it. A simple plain cast like this looks fantastic out of the mold. Every shadow, every ripple, and every curve of the shell form shows up beautifully. There is a tiny lip on the edge from the pour, so I'm going to sand that down to keep it in line with the overall shape. And just like that, our base is ready. You can see those subtle sparks of color cutting through the white, just like a real shell. But here is why eco resin is a different beast. The surface is porous. If you want to add painted details, you usually have to let the piece dry completely first and prime it, which can take anywhere from 24 to 72 hours depending on your climate. Which is exactly why I am applying a quick base coat of acrylic paint now. The porous surface will absorb some of it and the rest will dry and bake right into the material, creating an incredibly reliable base coat to build on later. Now that the piece is dry, the contrast between the gold and the shell has really started to pop. The base coat has a few brush marks, but because it absorbed so beautifully into the eco resin, it's now the perfect foundation for my second coat, which really saturates the color and makes that gold gleam. I'm working the lip to make the edge of this golden detail blurry. Now it's time to celebrate this gorgeous white canvas with some glitter, nail art charms, and UV resin. I'll pick out some pieces that fit the whole ocean theme. To attach them, I'm just dabbing a little bit of UV resin onto the shell, placing my decorations, and curing them instantly in place under UV light. I kept going until I had all my pieces positioned, though to be honest, I was having a little too much fun with it. At a certain point, I had to pull myself back and say, okay, that's enough. Otherwise, it would take away from the beautiful simplicity of the seashell shape. To finish it off, I want to highlight some of the natural ripples and the folds in the shell with a bit of glitter. So I'll line the grooves with some UV resin, pour the glitter over the top, cure the piece under UV light, and then just brush away the excess. Because the loose glitter falls onto a baking sheet, nothing is wasted. It all goes right back into the container. The only glitter that stays on my seashell is the bit locked perfectly in place by the UV resin. Now it's time to seal everything in. I'm starting with the internal bowl, dabbing the surface generously with UV resin and then draining the excess so that it sits uniformly across the curved surface. With the center done, it's time for the main body. I'm just lining towards the top and letting it drip down naturally. This UV sealing step is so important, but you have to be careful not to put too much at once or it will puddle and create a weird glob. Because eco resin is so porous, it absorbed a lot of that initial layer, leaving that surface a little uneven. So I'm going in with one final top coat. And of course, I don't know why I take such risks. It's like living on the edge. I used this little plastic container to prop the tray of the table and it got completely stuck to the piece. I had to rescue it using some other crafting tools, but thankfully all this excess resin just goes straight into my ever-growing scrap collection. Nothing is wasted. Because of my little adventure, I just need to clean up the bottom and give it one fast final seal. And our piece is ready. It is so satisfying to make ocean themed projects. Just sitting here at my craft bench, I can almost imagine the warm sun on my shoulders. The best part is how customizable it is. You can change it into any color or finish you like to commemorate a special vacation perhaps. Instead of these generic nail art charms, you could add custom words or personal tokens that tie directly to a specific memory. I crafted this for a very dear friend. We once had the most wonderful time by the sea. It seems so long ago in the past now. Time passes so very quickly, but I love the idea that we can be selective about our keepsake memories. I want to gift her this eco-resin seashell as a tangible reminder of a happy shared experience. A way to hold on to that sunshine, no matter how much time has gone by. If you're interested in working with this medium, check out my eco-resin playlist linked in the description for reliable or even experimental techniques. Happy crafting and have a wonderful day.